Everybody, welcome back to Blue Neck Adventures. As always, I'm your host, Rebel Squaw, and today we are going to be going over 10 tips for a foreign invasion or a Red Dawn scenario. So, stay tuned. Alright, guys, so before we get into anything, let me kind of explain what a Red Dawn scenario would be. For those of you who don't know, Red Dawn was a movie back in, I think, the 80s, and then, they had a remake in the 2010s, excuse me, where basically in the original it was Russia, but in the new one it was, I think it was North Korea, invades the U.S. overnight. They completely get past our radar, sonar, all that. They paratroop in and basically take over the U.S. So I'm going to give off 10 tips that I think would be beneficial for you to survive that type of situation. Now, these are tips that I took from the movies themselves, or, just books I've read, yada, 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 or just common sense things that I feel like would be beneficial to somebody if they were trying to survive and overcome a situation like this. So, number one, excuse me. Number one is form a group with like-minded people and assess everyone's skills. Now, what I mean by that is, this could be, obviously family members, friends, neighbors, co-workers, anything like that, that you feel like would have the same push and strive to fight back. And, whether it's taking back just your town or grouping up with a small army or militia to fight back against the enemy. And when I say assess your skills, find out if you have anybody in the medical field, engineering, construction, mechanical, anybody that might be in the sciences fields, or botany, gardening, anything like that. Stuff that's going to give you guys an edge over the enemy. Number two, recon and study the enemy. This goes into routines, patrols, etc. Try to see if you can find trade routes or supply lines where weapons are being moved to, ammunition, what is their communications like, stuff like that. Okay, do they have big heads in the area? Do they, just so on and so forth. Try to get as much information as you can. Intel is key in any situation like this. The more you know, the better off you're going to be. Number three, guerrilla warfare, sabotage and rob enemy transports and routes. This is something that was taken from the movie. I haven't seen the original Red Dawn, but I have seen the remake. And one thing that one of the protagonists says in the movie, which is Chris Hemsworth's character, is that you want to make life as difficult for the enemy as you possibly can. You want to make it to where they don't want to be there. You want to demoralize them, and that includes, taking out transports, of their food and their medicine and their ammunition. Take that shit away from them, okay? Make it difficult for them to have to be there, because when their morale starts to drop, that's when they're going to get sloppy, okay? That's going to give you an advantage over the enemy. That's what you want. So, number four, establish outposts, bunkers, safe houses, yada yada. And this is going to go into number five here in a second, because you need number five to do this. There are a lot of people in this country that have legitimate doomsday bunkers or safe houses that they come up with within their group or their family or whatever, where they have supplies stockpiled and whatnot. So that's definitely something that you would want to do as a small militia, is to have places to go. Whether you might run into a town where it's you know heavily fortified with enemies, you can't get in there, but hey, let's set up an outpost a couple miles away from here so we can kind of keep surveillance on them, so we can keep our eyes on them and what they're doing. And how you're going to do that is with step number 5, which is set up a communication system. That can be whether it's radios, whether it's signals, just so on and so forth. There's so many different ways you can come up with that. And that's going to be pivotal to setting up supply lines or outposts, safe houses, the whole sorts. Whether it's 3-band or 2-way radios, or like I said, just regular walkie-talkies, anything like that. That's going off of whether or not we have cell phones active or not. But you never know. Cell towers could be hacked. You never know. So then we go into number 6 is supply runs for food, ammo, and weapons. I would highly suggest you pick the people in your group that are that maybe have law enforcement or military training to take on this role. Not saying that regular civilians can't handle that, but I would feel better knowing if I had somebody who had training handling that type of situation. Number 7, I thought that this was a really, really important thing that maybe some people might not think about, and even the movie really didn't go off of, is learn the language of the invading party. Doesn't matter if it's Russia, Germany, China, Korea, wherever. It doesn't matter. Learn the language of who's invading. That way, you might be on a run. You might be on a supply run, and you come into, enemy territory. You hear some things. You can report back. That once again, going back to number 2 is intel. Okay, and if you can learn the language, you can gather intel, and that's just going to help you even more. Number 8, and these last 3 are rule or tips that I went over with a friend of mine. Stay in shape, set up training regimens. Once again, if you have anybody who's maybe really athletic in your group, or or is in shape because of law enforcement, military, special operations, whatever, get with them, have them set up a training regiment every day, so you and your group are in shape. You can start to learn different tactics to get over obstacles and whatnot. That's beneficial. We have number 9, do not carry unnecessary gear or equipment. Keep it simple. I definitely agree with this. You shouldn't have to go out into the field with a shit ton of gear on you. Okay, that's what the outposts are for supplies and stuff like that. Now, if you're on a run, that's understandable if you're coming back with a lot of stuff, because that's the whole point. But don't go out into the field on a mission, whether it's recon, or if it's you're about to go take on a camp or whatever. You don't want to be slowed down by a bunch of gear. Take what you need, what's necessary for the mission, and go from there. In number 10, I really agree with this one. He said, my friend said, keep trustworthy companions, and then I added on, but rely on yourself. At the end of the day, in any survival situation, it's always great to have trustworthy teammates or companions, or, whatever you want to call them, but don't rely on them, because you never know. You never know. What can happen is you guys could be on a supply run or, a force recon, and you guys get overwhelmed. You guys get jumped by the enemy. You're taken hostage. Your partner, now whether they're a good person or not, if they are subjected to a certain type of, you know, torture, they might give up information, and you can't blame them for that. That's the thing that I always hate in movies, where they get mad at the person for giving up information because they were having a fucking cattle prod ironed into them, burned into them or whatever. Like, you can't be mad at somebody for not being able to take a certain amount of physical, mental, or emotional torture. Okay, it's not right. Um, but you rely on yourself before anybody else. Yourself, if you know your limits. So you know what you're willing to do and willing to go through to, um, either keep or obtain information. So once again, guys, I'm no expert. Obviously, I've never lived this type of situation before. None of us really have. But these are just tips that I came up with from research and from the actual movie that kind of goes off of this stuff. And I know it's a movie, it's all fake, but it does have good points and it does get you thinking. So that's where I got this stuff from, these tips. So obviously, take them how you want to. If you guys have better tips, leave them in the comments below for me. Let me know. I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say. And as always, if you guys have different lists that you want me to go through or topics you want me to cover, please let me know in the comments below. I read everybody's comments, okay? And I love seeing you guys' feedback. It's always fun, always entertaining. But I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you. As always, leave a like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends about us over here at Blue Neck Adventures, because we can always use the support. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.